I'm Lynn, and today we're going to show you the Apple Core To Go quilt.
That's right. I feel like we should have had little apple teenies maybe, or a basket of apples, or
some applesauce.
There you go.
And this is the Apple Core shape. It is such a traditional shape in quilting.
It is, and it is a classic, but as you can see, we've put some pretty modern fabrics with it, so we're going to get some really different looks. And I'm excited to get started on this.
Right, and the one that we have behind us, the quilt that we have behind us, is in very traditional colors.
Right.
And it has a scalloped edge border, so that also gives you a little bit different look with what you can do to finish your quilt.
That's right, bias binding, another video.
Exactly, yes. And I have some exciting news, Erica.
What's that, Lynn?
Well, in preparing for this video, we actually timed how long it took to cut out the fabric. Yeah, because hey, let's see how fast this the Go system is.
Okay.
And so in prepping the fabric and cutting out the 99 apple cores, it only took 30 minutes to cut the entire quilt top.
That's really amazing. That's really amazing. If you stop and think about cutting this, this isn't something that you really could even do with your rotary cutter. It would be very difficult. So you think of going back to cutting with scissors.
Right. So, and also on, this is the apple core die, so we have the benefit of the notches are cut for you as you're cutting out the shape.
Huge time saving. It's really going to pay benefits when we put it together. And for anybody like me who learned to sew through garment sewing, and you remember cutting these little notches off if you were putting a sleeve in, you're going to really love this benefit.
And I did also want to mention that that was cutting on the Go cutter. So if you're using your Go big cutter, it'll be even faster.
It could have been.
Right. So the huge benefit using the Go system. All right, so now we're going to get to the fun part of actually, we're going to show how to sew and some tips with sewing.
Perfect. So this is a curve seam. This is something that makes a lot of people quake in their shoes. So hopefully we're going to be able to get rid of some of that fear about sewing curves.
Right.
I'm going to reach across, and we've got lots of pieces cut here because we're going to make this quilt. And we're going to always want to have our concave piece on top.
Okay, and how do I remember, what's a good tip for remembering concave versus convex?
Into the cave.
Okay.
That's how I remember. I think I was taught in geometry, which was not one of my favorite classes. I like to pin. I am a pinner. There are people who sew their curves without any pins, Lynn.
Mm-hmm.
Your notches are still going to be really good for that, but I am going to use 3 pins on each one of these curves. So the first thing that you want to do is make sure that your beginning point is perfectly lined up, and that's going to be my first pin. So I'm going to get that in here to help me get started. My second pin is going to be at my notch. So I'm going to go ahead and put that pin in.
I think that's the most important pin.
I think so too. And then I really do like to have one at the end as well. You know, you want to be sure you start and end the race. But it really isn't a race, and so I've actually turned down the speed on the sewing machine because I want to be I guess it's slow and steady that wins this particular race.
Absolutely. This isn't one that you want to be unsewing. So it's better. You're better off taking your time and making sure that you do it right the first time.
That's right. Now, the key to this is all in getting started. And again, that's why we put that pin together. And we want those first couple of stitches. And you mentioned that a little tip that Eleanor Burns says is that remember your needle's straight.
Right, your needle only sews straight. And for those of us who have ventured out and sewn a couple of curves here and there, you know, it is easy to start thinking that your needle is actually sewing on the curve. And you've got to really keep in mind that it's only sews straight.
I got laid up. I did not get started right. So, you want to be sure, and you may want to even start with a little leader or an ender project to keep this going so that what happened to me doesn't happen to you, which was I got knotted up at the beginning. I got down in my throat plate. So that means another set, Lynn.
Okay, all right, so let's do that, and that definitely is something that can happen. So let's do,
And again, we're going to put those 3 pins on.
right, and then we can show how, again, you've got your concave on top.
You know, this never happens when you're practicing. It only happens when the camera's rolling.
Well, it's good to see that we have the same
But it
problems.
does happen. That's
Yes,
right. It does
definitely.
happen. Okay, so we're going to start that again. And again, I'm going to get it lined up. Now, a lot of times people use a stiletto. We couldn't find ours today. So if you are like me and can always seem to misplace your pieces, you can use a seam ripper. All right, so I'm going to put that there. Pull out my pin. Take those first couple of stitches. Your first couple of stitches are going to be perfectly flat, so I like to get those in first before I start working my curve.
The other the stiletto is useful because it just can get into those places where your fingers can't.
That's right. You really don't realize that until you start going. So again, that is just a really useful piece. And you're kind of easing that fullness in. We hit the notch, I hit a pin. I didn't hit the pin, I actually took it out before I hit the pin. I guess I should have said I got to the pin because you don't want to hit your pins. Okay, then I'm going to regroup a little bit now that I'm at the halfway point. Again, we're going to take our time. We're going to make sure that this goes together for us. Now I'm getting up to the end, and this is where I really make sure that I've got my stiletto or my seam ripper there to help me out. Get that last pin out of my way. And Lynn, we've got this curve down.
All right.
So again, we've got that one down, first one down.
Okay, let's see how we did.
And we got our curve.
Ooh, very nice.
You can see we started and ended. You'd go ahead and press this out, and as I've heard people say, press it the way it wants to go. When I press these, it seems like it wants to go towards that convex part. And so I just am going to go with the flow, as they say.
All right, and you can see how these edges are just right on. This particular shape, you definitely want to use the 1/4 inch seam allowance.
That's right, do use your 1/4 inch. Now what we've done and what our directions will have you do is go ahead and put together little 4 patches. So we want to go ahead and show you how that works because we've got another great tip for you with that. So again, we've got these, that's how we want to end up. We want our concave, our concave on top, right?
Right.
Okay. And so we're going to be sewing, we're going to do kind of a partial seam. We're actually going to, because we always want the concave on top. So we're going to start where that concave is starting. So I can actually put my pin on the other side of where I'm starting. Again, my notch is going in, and I'm going to place a pin there. And keep in mind, like we said earlier, we're not racing with this project. This is one we're going to take our time and enjoy those perfect points that we're creating.
Right. Yes, the cutting is definitely the easier part on this project.
It is. So again, always make sure the key, you want to get started right. Use your stiletto if that helps. I want to line this up so I'm starting right on my seam from the last one. Okay, pull my pin out just for good measure.
And then you just align.
And you're going to just align it and start stitching. And we're going to sew this one just like we did the other one, except we started a little bit differently. And because we're flipping it, now we've got our green on top, but again, even though it's a different color, it's the same shape because again, you've got that concave on top. And you're going to want to stop, you're going to stop and start. It's not how we're used to going. We're used to just roaring, zoom, zoom, zoom straight ahead.
Right.
But by stopping to rearrange, you're going to stop, you're going to get a nice smooth seam. You're not going to have those little bubbles.
And I do, in my experience, I think you just got to keep going. That's important.
You do. I think it is. You just have to trust it's going to work. You've got your pins there. It really is all going to fall out for you and be in the right place.
Right. It's just a little bit, it's different if you're used to straight piecing.
Absolutely.
This is a totally different experience, but it's okay. It's okay.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be fine. Just hang in there and just finish it up, because the end result is very rewarding.
It's totally worth it. So we've done our partial seam. You can see that we started right there in that center of our little apple core 4-patch, and now I will start there and go back the other direction and go ahead, start here, again, put my pin at that notch,
Right.
a pin at the end, sew it together, and we're gonna have that 4-patch like we have there,
Right.
and then from there, it's just gonna be rinse and repeat, as they say, and we're gonna keep doing it the same way through our quilt to put it together.
And that is such a great tip. I think a lot of times we talk about putting the 2 pieces together, but not the 4-patch. And this
Right.
is how you get that perfect point.
That perfect point.
Right
And
there.
it's going to be a little bit more manageable for you too, I think.
Absolutely. All right. Well, this is just wonderful. I learned a lot here today, and thank you.
You're welcome, and thank you for watching. We hope to see some of your projects on our ideas page at AccuQuilt.com. That's also where you can find this project if you'd like to make this at home.
Right. And you can join us too on Facebook, Pinterest, Instagram, and Twitter,
So remember, at AccuQuilt, we like to help you cut time
so you can quilt more.